What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Charlie Jets Live. I'm your host, Steven Zantz, joined by my co-host, Steven Russo. 6-3, baby. We're on the bye. We beat the wagon of the NFL. Steven, how are you feeling? It is a good day to be a Jets fan. I will tell you that.
I'm feeling great, man. It's unbelievable. 6-3. We're talking playoffs in November. I mean, this is unreal. I think it was a great experience on Sunday because you kind of felt like you were playing with house money a little bit, and the edge was off. It certainly wasn't like the week before against New England because that game, it meant a whole lot. So while you thought the Jets had a shot here, I think every Jets fan probably felt that way. You also probably felt like it most likely wasn't going to happen. And as they kept it close and kept it a game, and as the game went on and the defense played better and better and the offense got in a little groove, you're thinking, oh my God, we got a real shot here. And then honestly, like when the Jets kicked the field goal to go up 2017, you kind of just have a confidence in the defense. And you're like, you know what? I know Josh Allen could do this right now. We left him a lot of time. It was like 1:43 and no timeouts. You're like, man, that's a lot. You know, we saw this back and forth in the divisional round last year with Kansas City, right? But you kind of just had this confidence about the D. And certainly, you know, they shut it down, and Bryce Huff comes and brings it, and Sauce Gardner closes it out. And it was a wild ride, man. And it was a lot of fun. And it's been a fun season thus far. And I'm just jacked up that the Jets are 6-3 going into the bye week. And, you know, like a lot of people were kind of mentioning the Slack too. It's kind of, I think the bye comes at a good time when you're thinking objectively, you know, get some guys back, get healthy, a week of rest. But man, it's going to be tough with no Jets football. You kind of want to go ride this momentum a little further. So how are you feeling though? What were your thoughts on the game overall?
It was stressful because, you know, you felt like the whole time the Jets were in it, even when they were down 14-3, because it was pretty evident from the start after Josh Allen made that long throw to Diggs that he just looked off. And I think obviously it had a lot to do with what the Jets were doing from a defensive standpoint. So you felt like that the defense was going to keep him in it. So it really came down to how can they execute on offense? How does Zach look, who I thought was, you know, solid. You know, he wasn't lighting the world on fire, but he was getting the ball out quick. He looked much better than he did, you know, against New England the week before. But also the fact that the Jets were able to run the ball effectively again, even without Breece Hall. And I thought it was funny because Dalvin was saying this like mid-game in our Slack. He's like, they got to rest James Robinson. He just doesn't look right. And then all of a sudden, the juice just came on with him. Like, obviously, Carter had a really good game the whole way. But James Robinson just had this like jolt of energy, like either late in the third or early in the fourth. And he was just hitting holes, going fast. It was tremendous. He obviously caught a touchdown from Zach earlier in the game. But man, it's just been I don't even know how to like act. And I think Salah had a tremendous quote, and it was in I believe it was in Peter King's article on Monday. It's a Bill Parcells quote, which I'm sure he said when he was just in New York. It's either euphoria or it's disaster. It's no way in between. And honestly, that's what it sums up as being a Jets fan. It's like, we either have like the biggest high in the world, but then when they lose the game, especially if it's just like frustrating, we fire everybody, get rid of everybody. It's crazy. That's what we are. But that's being a fan. But yeah, dude, it is an unbelievable time to be a Jets fan. This is like I'm not saying it's like 2010, but this is like the most like juiced up I've been about this team since 2010. 2015 obviously was fun, but they started out 5-5. They weren't 6-3. So they got hot and had that 5 straight wins before the implosion in Buffalo week 17, which I think is why we don't talk about that season as much anymore, because of the way it ended. But dude, I know a lot of people, you know, were saying prior to this week, the Jets have one of the best defenses in the league. And I know I'm going to be echoing what Connor Hughes said, you know, after the game on like his SNY like recap. Also what Joe Benigno said on his spot on the Fan on Monday morning. The Jets have the best defense in the NFL. I will say it. I put it in my column in 5 things this week. They have the best defense in the NFL. Tell me the defense is better. The only defense that I would even say is probably on par with them. Well, actually 2, I'm sorry. Philly and Denver. But the Jets are better. The Jets have the depth that I think makes them better. And also, you're not going to find a better trio of corners in Sauce, DJ Reed, and Michael Carter II. And even their backups like Bryce Hall and what's it called? Eccles. They were like starters last year. So like they're good depth pieces. And when they are used, even though Hall hasn't really been active the last 2 weeks, they can contribute because they know how to play football in the NFL. It's just an unbelievable feeling. And like you said, it's going to feel weird this week that we don't have a Jets game to watch because like we're not at that point where we feel like it's like a job watching the Jets. Like we're so gassed up.
I know.
Like there's not a game now that they beat Buffalo. We said those are the 2 games that we didn't think we could win. They can win every single game that's there. They won't. I'm not going to sit here and be like, we're running the table. That's not going to happen. But like, you know, it's very reasonable to expect over the next, I guess, what are we? It's 9 games in. There's eight to go. They could go 5-3. They could even go 6-2. I think 5-3 is probably where they net out. That's just me based on what I've seen. And you never know what can happen, especially as we're waiting to hear what's going on with Josh Allen, because obviously I don't wish injury on anybody. And obviously I hope he's okay because he's an awesome football player. It's fun to watch him. And I know I used to always say he sucked, but like if he's actually going to miss an extended amount of time, it's a huge opportunity for this team. It's like they could win the division, which is like, if you told anyone that this team had any semblance of a chance to win the division in the summer, they would have told you, what are you smoking? What drugs are you on? And be like, are you kidding me? So obviously there's more to come with that, but we'll find out tomorrow, or if you're listening to this on Wednesday morning, we'll be finding out soon about what's going on with Josh Allen, because it's been a little bit weird how they haven't said anything, and it'll be Wednesday tomorrow. So
it is.
Sorry.
But like you said, no, it's one of those things. You never wish injury on anybody, and Josh Allen is a hell of a player, and he makes the NFL better. He's fun to watch, and as a division foe, I mean, you know, you never wish ill on anybody, but it's nice if this does happen and the Bills, you know, take this hit. It'd be nice where it happens, where it kind of coincides where the Jets actually have a chance, and not where the Jets are kind of just, you know, bottom feeders like they typically are, and are on their way to a 4-13 season. So at the same time, like I just going back to the game, and you talk about the defense and think about how this game started, right? You know, Braden Mann slips on the opening kickoff. The Bills get the ball at their own 45, and first play is like a little, you know, stop and go, and they hit Stephon Diggs on sauce down to the, you know, pretty much inside the Jets 20. And for the Jets to get the turnover there, and even though they didn't do anything with it, it still kind of set the tone for the game. So after that, they get down 14-3, but you never really felt panicked. And it's one of those things where I think we can look back on a few Jets games this year, specifically the New England one, and say, you know what, the Jets lost this game. The Patriots didn't win it. And if I were to look objectively at this game, I really can say that I think the Jets won it. I definitely agree with you. I think Josh Allen was off, but I think a big part of it is what Saleh and Ulbrich and the Jets defense did, and confusing him and making him off. And to know that really the Jets kind of just they played their game, and they knocked the Bills off their game a little bit. It's a good feeling to have, man. And it's really exciting to know that we can hang with the best and ultimately come out on top. So yeah, when, you know, it's weird when you look at the schedule completely. And when we looked at it before the season started, we thought
it looks very different.
We thought that the gauntlet was in the first half and it would kind of lighten up as it went on. And now you look and you're like, okay, those home games are definitely winnable, but man, that road schedule now is tough. You got Minnesota sitting at 7-1. You got Seattle, who with Geno at the helm, we thought would be, you know, almost a gimme. And that story has totally changed. And then you still got all 3 division opponents on the road, which is obviously no easy task. So it's just interesting kind of, you know, from a micro and then a macro view, you look at this game and kind of how it played out. Like I just said, how it started and how it finished. And one of those things is just, you kind of praise the resiliency of this team. It seems like they never panic. And all of us Jets fans are probably panicked at home when stuff like this happens. Braden Mann slips, you're going, oh, here we go again. But at the same time, it's just the resilience of this team. I think they wear these things and they're able to just come back and they don't get panicked. And like you said at the opening, you know, down 14-3, you just always kind of felt like they were in it. So man, it's just it's incredible right now. And it's been a fun ride. And I can't wait for it to continue.
Dude, we deserve this. Every Jets fan deserves this, whether you were positive, negative about what was going on with this team, but, you know, in the summer, early on when they were 1-2, and, you know, they were a little concerned about, you know, this regime, but like, I don't even, words can't describe how happy I am. Like, you're just in a better mood on Monday when you know that this Jets team is good. Like, it just helps you get through the week. It does. And it gets you so excited. Like you said, we're going to feel so empty on Sunday, but like, you could just enjoy football without the stress of it, unless you bet on football, which I do.
Yeah.
So
It's what's funny is that, my wife and I were talking too. And when, in that like 09, 2010 season, I was spoiled coming because we always talk about that, right? 97 to
yeah,
2010, 11 was like the glory years. So my wife always says, she's like, I think you appreciate it more now because, you enjoy the wins. Whereas I just stressed, during those couple of years, it was like 58 minutes of stress for like 2 minutes of glory. It's like that's all it is. It's like I wanted to win, win bigger, and I didn't want teams to hang around. But now I'm just having been through these last, 10, 11 years, I'm just able to enjoy this more because I know how bad it could be. And so I appreciate what's going on right now and the fact that they're just around and in games. And at the very least, it's exciting. And one
yeah,
of those things, we talk about just playing competitive. If the score was flipped and it was 20-17 Bills and the Jets hung with them and played the way that they did, we'd be upset for sure, but we could live with that. And if they got to the bye at 5-4 and they hung tight with Buffalo, I think we would all been okay with that. But the fact that they came out on top, man, icing on the cake.
it's yeah. If they lost 20-17, or even if they lost, like, I guess let's just say it was 2017 and they lost 24-20 because Josh Allen was able to either, connect on that long 4th and 21 play, which was not pass interference. I don't care what anyone
If
says.
anything, it was OPI.
It was. Gabe Davis extended his arm. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It was jostling. They're not calling that on 4th and 21. I don't care, but it was insane that Josh Allen launched like a 70-yard pass,
Especially if he's got a bum arm too.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, man, you can't really ask for more. And we were clamoring for this in July. I remember those days, and I remember specifically a couple of weeks before the season started. I think it was like right after the preseason game. I had that dark cloud over me.
Yes.
And then it kind of looked like it was true when they started out 0-1. And then obviously after the Bengal game, we were just like, what the hell is going on, man? And ever since then, even if they lose games now, you're like, the vibe is different, and you feel like this is a football team, man. Like, we have a team. Like, there's no more like everyone's like, oh, the Jets stink. They're not going to be. Everyone knows that the Jets are a good football team. I know there's questions with Zach Wilson, who we could definitely talk a little bit more about in a bit. But like, besides, I think Joyner's been good, but you definitely would prefer to get younger at safety for next year, and obviously just depth at linebacker because Mosley is 30, he'll be 31 next year, and obviously Quincy Williams is solid, but then behind those guys and Quan, they don't have a lot of depth. There's so many good young pieces. I know the offensive line has been shuffling a ton, but that's the beauty of this bye week because it is expected that Max Mitchell and George Fant could be back after the bye, and like, what a world. Offensive line depth when we feel like it's been a revolving door, getting Cedric Obwehi in there, and obviously Dwayne Brown missing some time and getting in there. Just really the interior, obviously until Vera Tucker went down, was the only thing that was stable. And Nate Herbig has held it down, man. Kudos to Joe Douglas.
He was an animal on Sunday.
Yeah, he was. And it's just, and Lakin, who a bunch of people were like, did we blow that free agent sign? He was a monster on that last drive where they burned out the clock, essentially leaving Buffalo with like 2 minutes to go in the game. Dude, it's like I said, speechless. It's tremendous. But let's talk about Zach, because I don't think that there is a quarterback in the league who is more deciphered on every throw, complete, incomplete, footwork, everything than Zach Wilson. And I get it. He's the number 2 pick in the draft. And obviously I've said on this show at times, like, I'm worried about him. I don't know if he's necessarily the long-term answer, but like the one thing I will say, and I know like the numbers aren't going to be eye-popping or anything like that, he's coachable. Think about it. He was doing too much. He was doing all these things that are pissing us off from the New England game. And I remember there was like a little bit of like a report. There was like a video of Rap Sheet basically saying before the game, like, he's going to let it rip. He had a really good practice on Friday, and like he understands what he needs to do. He did that, exactly that. And think about it. If Zach played the way he did on Sunday against New England, the Jets win that game.
Yeah.
No question in my mind. Handily, probably by at least 10 points, if not more. And I think that is something to, really, keep your eye on, is the fact he's not this stubborn kid that everyone thinks. Like, all he wants to do is win. He doesn't really care about the stats. He said it himself, whether he's lying or he's not. I know Elijah has said things that he hasn't necessarily meant, but at the end of the day, Zach's 5-1 as a starter. Do you think the Bear fans, the Jaguar fans, Texans, obviously the 49ers have Jimmy G, so it's a little bit different. But you're telling me that those fan bases would not have taken 5-1 from their second year quarterback? They are lying if they're saying otherwise. Jaguar fans, congratulations. You got your stupid win against the Raiders, who blew a 17-point lead. Congratulations. But like, my point is they're winning games. This is like kind of like Alex Smith. Even there's a lot of parallels to Sanchez. People were like worried he's not the guy, but they kept winning with him. Zach, I think, is more physically, gifted than he is, but he does the same things and makes mistakes at times. But I think the best play he made on Sunday is when he took that sack inside the goal, like inside the 5. And instead of like trying to force it, they settled for 3 and they end up winning the game. Who knows? If he forces it, they don't take the lead. Buffalo could drive down the field with more clock and we lose the game. So he's learning. I'm not sold on him 100%, but I'm rooting for him. I hope he becomes the guy that we all hoped he'd be when they took him, a year and a half ago at number 2 overall. But like, give the kid a chance. And now he has the bye week. I actually did a little bit of digging. I know Fields was terrible early on in the season, like terrible. Like I thought like worst quarterback in the league at one point. And then I realized it was probably Baker, not him, until Baker got benched. If you actually look at it, after 6 starts is when Fields really started to turn it on. Zach is about to be there after the bye week. So maybe, just maybe, the bye week off to kind of recharge the batteries, to reflect on the film that he's put on, he's put out there, and see what he was doing wrong, especially against New England, because that's going to be their opponent after the bye. I think you're going to see a different quarterback. I think you're going to see a more confident quarterback. I loved how he was getting the ball out very quickly. Like it was like the fastest he was getting out. I thought he looked as comfortable as he's been as the quarterback. Like I felt like he looked like first half Zach prior to the interception. He looked like Zach in the fourth quarter. I think for the most part against Pittsburgh, like he just was getting it out, going through his reads, and it's, Garrett Wilson's a menace. We can talk about him in a little bit. So give me your thoughts on our second year quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think he bounced back nicely and he showed progress and he showed that he can learn and adapt and do what's asked of him. And I think we're starting to really see how this Jets team is built, and the fact that they are a balanced team that's built to win with a developing quarterback, and they're balanced on offense and they can make plays through the air and they have enough weapons to do so. But at the same time, they're reliant on the running game, which they should be. So when you do those things and you play good defense, I mean, that's a formula for winning with any type of QB, but especially with a QB that's young and still developing and in his 18th or 19th start, whatever the number is. I think, you made the comment about him taking the sack down there on the last drive, right? To preserve the field goal pretty much. But I think that's what this team wanted. And that's what this defense wanted, because the defense wants that pressure. They're going to say that, like, put that on us. And sure enough, they close it out. So I think you're just starting to see those things. And obviously the game plan was for Zach to get the ball out quickly, which he did. He played pretty much turnover free or, mistake free outside of one turnover. And Von Miller, he got by Aboihi on
one of the best players
sack.
in the league.
Von Miller does that to a lot of people now. And that also came after, the sky cam went down and all that shit. So, we can have that discussion at another time, but overall, I think he looked, really good, and it's proven you can win when Zach plays like this. And overall, I really think he's had, in 6 starts this year, he's had one bad game, and that one bad game just happened to be against New England when all the pressure was on us and all the pressure was on him, and he blew it. So he'll learn from it, and we'll see how he does in 2 weeks again at New England. I think the one thing that I would really love to highlight, though, is his escapability, because, and even Robert Saleh said it, I was listening to his spot on the Michael K show on Monday, that his 2 favorite plays were the 2 scrambles that he had for first downs. And those are things that don't necessarily show up really, they're not highlighted in the stat sheet, but those were 2 really big plays, and something that I think all of us were clamoring for following that New England game, because we saw the opportunity for him to run, where he decided to throw specifically on that Tyler Conklin 4th and 5 shot. So the fact that he recognized it, I'm sure the coaches were hammering him all week about it. He recognized it. He took advantage. He converts 2 third downs with his legs, has a nice, design run on second down inside the red zone in the last drive. So I just think overall it was a solid game, and he's showing progress. And again, like, we're still 19 starts in. Like, let's just, it's going to take time. Like, it's not fair to say one way or another definitively that he is or isn't the guy. And, I give Josh Allen a lot of credit and a lot of kudos for what he said about Zach.
Yeah. It
In
made me
his
like
interview.
really actually like him because I don't want to root
Exactly.
for him.
And I think, I don't want to speak for all Bills fans, but I live in central New York. I think they forget easily what Josh Allen was and their thoughts on him for the first 2 seasons. They think he just came out of,
He kind of looked like that on Sunday.
Exactly. He kind of, they thought he was just drafted into this all world QB, which he wasn't. And the questions were still there even after year 2 in that wild card berth. So it takes time with these things, and it's going to take time, and he's going to develop. But the fact that the Jets kind of have this team around him, that's allowing him to develop on the fly, I think is great. And I'm with you, Steven. I compare it to Sanchez. I think it's slightly different just because that team was built to win with veterans. This team is built to win, but it's
With
funny
youth.
because it's the young guys that are really the core. And
It's
the
a good
reason that
infusion of both, but mostly youth. Yes.
it is. And, not to go off on another tangent, but, you talked about CJ Mosley and him being up there because I think he's 30, but man, you cannot put a value on how what he means to this team and this defense.
He's
Like,
the
he
leader,
is just,
man.
he's unreal. He has been so
Should
good
have
this
had an
year.
interception too.
He should have. He's been so good. And I know we were talking about Zach, but I just had to mention that. So yeah, man, go ahead. Let's keep it going with the offense. We can talk about the receivers and Garrett Wilson and how good he looked. Your thoughts on that, and also the absence of Elijah Moore's targets and
Yeah, I mean, I wrote this, and for people who didn't see it, like I was like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, yes, he probably should touch the ball, but it's working. What they're doing is working. Like, I'd love to see Zach force feed Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's the best receiver on the team. And even Mims had the biggest catch of his life as a Jet. And I just felt like, he's showing a lot of growth. And I think Salah highlighted it as well, that a couple of weeks ago, I think it was really when Elijah's situation started, he like saw an opportunity and just ran with it. And he's deserving of the playing time. And I give him all the credit in the world because we're all pretty much done with him, after training camp. So I'm really happy for a guy like him because I was excited when they picked him in 2020. I think he's a serviceable player. And I think, especially with Corey being out, he has the ability to block because he's a big guy and he could get those jump balls. But it sucked because Zach had that one throw, it was a little high, and you were just like, man, if Mims could have got that one. Before I go into Garrett Wilson, there was one thing I wanted to talk about with Zach, but obviously you had a lot of good points. You were talking about him stepping up and running, which I thought was great. He wasn't going backwards, he was going forwards. Dan Orlovsky posted actually a good clip basically showing, I think, one of the plays you were talking about. So I think it was second down. He didn't see anything. He throws the ball away. And the big thing Dan was saying was live to see another down. The next play, similar situation, but he realizes I'm going to take off.
Yep.
That is growth, and that's showing the ability to be coached and learn from your mistakes. I just wanted to caveat that as well. Yes. Okay. Back to Garrett Wilson, who is unreal. Like, Steven, I know you're the Keyshawn guy. Is Garrett Wilson, you think, looking like he could be a better player than Keyshawn if he continues this trajectory?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, I had to just throw that in there.
I know. It's fine. I love Keyshawn. I really do. But
dude,
no, Garrett Wilson.
I said this. He's a menace.
Yeah.
You give him the ball, he's slippery. He made that one move where he juked that guy out and got that first down. It was unbelievable. But the things he was doing, you just get him the ball, he can make plays. But like, this play didn't count. I tweeted out the video when he literally had that one-handed catch in the end zone he was out of bounds. It was like the most effortless thing. He just catches it. Like, he just goes like that. And I'm like, what? Like, it was like some Odell stuff. Like, when Odell's prime, like, this dude is insane. And he's such a joy to watch. And the best thing about him, on top of the fact that he's just an unbelievable football player, because he's like always open and I feel like he could just continue to cook. He's a good kid. He's smart. He has a good head on his shoulders. I think he knows that, he has this great opportunity to be a great player in a big market, and he just loves the moment. And it's a really refreshing thing to see. And it was cool when Mims had that play and he went over to celebrate with him. Like, man, it's just the vibes are so good with these guys, and I love it. And I hope that things work out with Elijah. I know, obviously, I was like, get rid of him. I was annoyed with him, but at the end of the day, if they can start giving him some touches, like, the swing passes that they do to Berrios, the end arounds, the touch passes, like that's like opportunity to be had for Elijah. And I think that they will. I think they're going to use this bye week to figure out ways to incorporate him into the offense. And I think he's finally buying in, realizing I'm part of something special here. My time will come and it'll all be good. So Garrett's awesome. What are your thoughts on 17? Who is him?
Yeah, Garrett Wilson is just special. And honestly, I mean, I'd have to think back to Keyshawn, although, that was in the midst of a 1-15 season. But to think back on a rookie receiver, rookie Jets receiver producing the way that he is, like that's it. It was Keyshawn, but again, it was kind of just, you're 1-15, so like you don't really get too excited about it. But the fact that Garrett Wilson is doing what he's doing, and the fact that you see now the rapport continuing to build with Zach is just so much more special. I mean, the kid is just he's unreal. You're right, he's slippery. He makes every catch. He's got some moves after the catch with him. He gets the yak. So, and he knows when to go down, which I also like. So I just think he's special. I think we're really seeing this on the ground floor before it takes off. In regards to Elijah Moore, I really think the involvement, you do kind of question it, but specifically for this game, I think they put such a emphasis on Zach Wilson getting rid of the ball quickly that it's probably like first read, second read, out, done. And you probably figure that that's Garrett Wilson 1 and maybe like Tyler Conklin 2 or something, where Elijah was more of a distraction than anything else. So I do think you're right. I do think his time will come. I think he's too good to not have it, not be a part of the offense, at least in some aspect. And then the other thing, man, and you touched on it, credit to Denzel Mims. I mean, the guy didn't make a catch all day. He was right there on a few, could have gone either way. The bomb on the first drive, I mean, he almost had it. You'd like to see him haul that in. The second throw was high. Still, as a big body wide receiver, you hope that he comes down with it. There was another one. Zach threw a laser across the middle that Mims almost had. So for him to have 3, questionable, drops or ones that he could have had, but to come up big on that third down and convert it and show that he can be that big body player the way that he is. And I think Joe Caporoso said it best. I think he's carving out a niche for himself in this offense, even after Corey Davis returns. I just think you kind of need that power forward aspect to the offense. You really do. So I just think this receiving core can be really special. And once Corey Davis comes back, that's going to be huge. And I mean, credit to like every team deals with injuries, and sure enough, the Bills, that's no slouch, man, on offense or defense. I mean, they're missing Milano, they're missing Jordan Poyer. Russo went out halfway through the game, but shit, the Jets were missing Brees Hall, AVT, Corey Davis. Like, their line is makeshift from what it should have been to start the season. So you got to give credit to this team and the way they fight, to this coaching staff for what they continue to do, for Joe Douglas for building the depth that he has. It was awesome to see.
Yeah, agreed. Saleh actually confirmed today that Elijah is being permanently moved to the slot. So that could be the opportunity for him after the bye week. Our friend Will Parkinson, host of the TOJ pod, just confirmed that. So pretty cool to hear that. And I think that's going to be a lot of things to come. It's just, you could talk about all these guys, and it's just so much fun. And like the one thing that is just awesome when we're going back to Garrett Wilson is like, think about how many times over the last, 10 years, basically since this futility of the team began after the 2011 season, you see all these teams spend first round picks on rookie wide receivers. And we weren't doing that. He was the first receiver we took in the first round since Santana. So that's a long time. That's like 20 years ago at this point. And you always be like, why can't the Jets be the team that gets the guy who comes on the scene and is just a productive rookie wide receiver? Finally got that guy in the first round. And it just feels so good. It's like, we have the fun players. But I used to always say, why can't we have fun things, nice things? We have those things. It's just, it's awesome. And, it's just, this is a win for the ages. I mean, Saleh's biggest statement, I feel like he's had 3 different statement wins. And I caveat this in my column. Think about the progress they've made this year. It was get out of September with a win. Check. Did that. Win a division game after not winning one for 3 years. Check. They've actually done that twice. Put together a winning streak. Check. Beat an actual team in a big spot where they're not resting their starters. Check. So it's like they are checking the boxes that you needed to see and then some. Like if they had just won a division game and were like 2-2, which, you know, that was our expectation. Like it truly would, it's crazy. Like we were hoping for 4-5 at this point. 6-3, man. 6-3.
Anyone would have signed up for this.
Anyone.
And if you had told me before the season, I would have told you were nuts. No way.
Agreed.
Like, no way.
Yeah, I'd be lying. I'm not gonna lie here. I'm gonna be honest about my takes, and I was hoping for 4-5. I was like, that would be great. You're in the thick of things. So
what's crazy is you think about how pissed off you are that it's not 7-2 and how close it really is.
Nah, I think that they're where they should be.
Dude, listen, I'll say that all day. I have no problem with being 6-3, but they should have won against New England a week and a half ago. There's no question in my mind. And 7-2 would be so much sweeter. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not the forever pessimist. You know me. However, when you think back on it, you're like, man, that would be a lot better for 7.
But I look at it in this perspective. I'm not saying that like you should feel that way, because it does feel like they let one get away. But like that's the league, though. Like there's always games where like, you feel like teams let one get away, and there's just sometimes like a team just is off. You know what I'm saying? You're like, you expect to win that game, they don't. So I think that they are where they should be. They're 3 games over 500. Like, come on now.
Yeah, can't complain about it.
Since there is no game to preview, I thought this would be fun, and I actually didn't even give you any sort of heads up on this, but I think you'll be able to do this. Don't worry. I want to do some like mid-season awards and superlatives for this, so I think it should be pretty fun. So we're gonna start out with rookie of the first half. It's hard, right?
It is hard. I mean, wow. I will. Oh, geez. I mean. You have to give some consideration to Breece Hall, even though he's done for the year. But man,
I can't because he's done for the year. But yeah,
you can't. But you have to. You just have to give it to him because he was that good. For when he was playing up until Denver. I think at this point you have to go Sauce Gardner. In my opinion, I mean what he's done, closed out 2 games, been as good as he's been as a rookie. It's just unreal. And obviously honorable mention is Garrett Wilson, but I think you have to give it to Sauce Gardner. I will also say though, real quick, not rookie of the year for the Jets considerations here. That play that Jermaine Johnson made to sack Josh Allen that first down, man. Unreal to be able to chase down that guy and actually bring him down. And if he doesn't, I'm scared of what that ended up looking like, but just kudos to Jermaine Johnson. I mean, I think he's been obviously probably the most under the radar rookie of all of them. Really,
he's been solid. Anyway, he was hurt.
He has been very solid when he's played against the run and against the pass, and obviously in pass rush. So kudos to him. But yeah, my rookie of the year halfway through has to go to Sauce right now.
I agree, and Garrett's obviously a close second. And you could have made the argument for Breece up until he went down, but yeah. Dude, Sauce is. We've been desperately craving for a cornerstone player like this since Darrelle Revis was traded the first time. Obviously came back, but he wasn't necessarily the same, halfway into that season in 2015. Sauce is on a better trajectory than Revis is. Revis was like okay as a rookie. Like he was not bad. He was just like, he was looking at NFL corner. And then obviously his second season, he started to really show some signs. And then year 3 is really when he put it all together to become the lockdown guy he was in his prime. Sauce is 9 games into his NFL career. He's already making the case to be a top 5, if not top 3 player at his position. I don't think anyone's debating that anymore. The guy is money. And the crazy thing about it, he's going to get better. And he's also going to bulk up. He's so skinny. It's insane. I've never been so happy that I bought his jersey. Like I held off on Elijah. Obviously, I've been holding off on Zach. I bought the right guy. Like it's just a joy. It really was. I was so excited to see him on Diggs. Obviously, he was on Gabe Davis. I was like, Gabe Davis was essentially a non-factor in this game, other than pushing off at the end. So Sauce would definitely be my guy there. But definitely shout out to Garrett, shout out to Jermaine, even Max Mitchell, and obviously Breece is hurt. So he does not qualify for this award. So I'm going to move it to biggest surprise in a good way from the team.
Oh boy. can I say, I got to really take my time and think about this here. Can I say a unit? I'll say the offensive line. I'll say
Okay.
that, going through what they've gone through and the injuries that they've accumulated and how makeshift they really are, for them to hold up as well as they are, for the running game to stay on par. And I mean, I'm like you mentioned it earlier in the show that, the TOJ slack and how James Robinson looked. And I even tweeted it out at the half. I'm like, the running game just looks different without Breece Hall right now, but shit, they came alive in the second half. So for them to perform the way that they have, being as makeshift as they are, Mekhi Becton going down before the season, AVT going down, obviously in the season, started, George Fant, we're missing George Fant. They're starting Max Mitchell. For him to play the way that he did and go down, for Herbig to slide in, for Agboyi to be in just overall, and when I say it out loud, that's a lot of stuff you've dealt with. Dwayne Brown coming in, missing time, but now being a solidified left tackle, for the unit to perform the way that it has, I think that has been the biggest pleasant surprise on this team so far this year.
Yeah. So I have one and then I have an honorable mention. It's not what you pick, so it'll be definitely good to hear. Guess who this is going to be? I want you to guess, and then I'm going to say.
Quinnen?
No.
Because you're a Quinnen hater. You were a Quinnen hater.
I was. I don't hold back. Braden Ben. I think he deserves to be called out here.
Yeah.
We all were saying the Jets were negligent in terms of addressing the punting situation. We felt like Joe Douglas was holding on to Braden Ben because he didn't want to blow up this 2020 class as quickly as he has for the most part. I know he obviously had that terrible kickoff to start the game on Sunday and obviously hit a rough week one. But other than that, he's been awesome. And it's really an advantage to have a punter who could set your defense up in good situations. So he definitely deserves a huge recognition here. That was
huge. Yeah. He kind of had a shit week against New England though too.
He did.
Yeah.
Huge recognition is not the right thing. He deserves props. Excuse me.
I agree.
And honorable mentions LaMarcus Joyner, somebody that we were really concerned about, especially after the first game. He's been awesome. He keeps getting interceptions. It's crazy. And maybe just right place, right time. But yeah, that play was great. So he also should, what's it called? Whitehead, I was thinking of, who actually should have had two. He had one, but he should have had two. But yeah, Joyner's definitely honorable mention in that regard. Biggest surprise in a negative way.
I mean, it's got to be Elijah. It's got to be Elijah Moore. From the off the field antics to the on the field production, I was the one, like a lot of other Jets fans, I think you included, Joe, Connor, we were all like, Elijah Moore is going to be the number one guy in targets this year. I think he's the safest bet to go over 1,000. And for this to play out the way that it has, got to be the biggest disappointment. However, you're disappointed that this good player is not producing, but at the same time, the fact that they're having success without him is, obviously a nice surprise here. So it's okay. But obviously I think, and we said it earlier, his talent level and what he brings, what he can bring to the table. I mean, it's crazy that it's not being utilized. So I'm sure that they will figure it out, at least in part, to get him some targets. But yeah, biggest disappointment from what I really thought was going to be a knockout second year for Elijah. Definitely, this has been perplexing to say the least.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's really no one else you can go with just because of what you expected and really what's the return has been. So I'm not going to, harp on this one. Okay. So we're going to do MVP will be the last one, but the second to last one is going to be, what's your bold prediction for the second half of the season?
Oh boy. Bold prediction for the second half of the season. I think that, I don't know how bold this is, but I'll go with it anyway. I think they take 2 out of 3 in the division, and I think they smack New England coming out of the bye week. I think they lose to Buffalo in Buffalo, but I think they beat Miami in Miami to close it out. So we're going to see the Jets go 4-2 in the division after going winless for however long it was. So I don't know how bold that is, but getting 2 out of 3 on the road in division, I think is a pretty bold prediction.
Being 4-2 the division is bold.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going to go with. That's honestly what I think about. And I really do. I call me crazy. I'm chomping at the bit to get back against New England, but I think they're going to come out and I think they're going to smoke New England in New England.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if they just go 3-3 in the division, and
I'm fine with that.
yeah,
But I want New England.
Oh, of course. I was under the assumption when I say 3-3 in the division that they beat New England but lose the other two. That not the way you thought it. So this is my bold prediction, and I know I've been very flip floppy on him, and I get it. I'm still like, jury's still out, but it's about Zach Wilson, and I'm not saying he's going to be the guy at the end of the season, but what I will say, and this is my prediction for him, is right now, if you look at his stat line, he has 4 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and he's completing like 58% of his passes. My prediction for the second half of the season is he's going to complete 65% of his passes going forward. And I think he's actually going to throw 16 touchdowns. I know.
Total or in the back half?
Back half.
Wow.
Back half. They're going to air it out more. 16 touchdowns, and he's only going to throw 5 interceptions. So he's going to finish with a 20-10 season. That's what I think he's going to do.
Who is this guy? My co-host.
Wow. I know.
I like it.
I'll say this, and Michael Megan, if you're listening or watching at some point, we do have our little wager that I said if Zach finishes with 25 total touchdowns, you have to make your picture of him on that boat in the, I guess, wherever he went on vacation over the summer. And then if I lose, and this is inclusive of rushing and obviously as a receiving touchdown, that I have to buy you the Jeff Starter jacket from Homage. So that's kind of where this prediction is coming from. But in all seriousness, I think that you're going to see a lot of growth from him, and we're going to feel much better about him than we do right now. Are we going to say that he's the guy, he's going to get an extension when he's due? I don't know if that will be the answer, but if he finishes 20-10, you got to be happy with that. And I think he's good. I mean, he obviously will have some moments where I think he coughs it up a little bit. I think he'll throw some bonehead interceptions because that's kind of his game, and he'll have some fumbles. But I think overall he's going to clean that stuff up. And I think you're going to see a lot of growth from him and feel much better about him as we head into 23.
Like it.
I know it's bold.
I like
it's bold,
it.
But
yeah,
when you think about it, like at a high level, 20 touchdowns and 10 interceptions is not like this
it's not crazy
thing.
Yeah.
And all he has to do is, if you think about it, he's got 4 touchdowns. He has to average 2 touchdowns a game the rest of the way, which means he could have a game where he throws 4, and then he has a game where he throws 1, and he could do it. Like it's not.
I mean, you think of how many close calls he's had already. Like he was literally 2 yards away from having 2 against Miami. Like there's been opportunities there, no question.
Exactly, and luck will eventually break his way at some point. So I think it will. I think you're going to see a different guy. It's kind of the way we saw a different guy when he came back from injury after the Texans game. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess for the Texans game, I think you're going to see that, but obviously there's going to be more growth. And I think just getting these reps and all of this time to reflect on the bye week is going to be great for him. So the last award, and I guess this wasn't an award just now, but who is the MVP of the team for the first half? Because I think I know we're going to go with this, and I'm going to go a different direction.
Okay, you think you know where I think there's a couple of options here. I don't want to steal all your thunder.
I think there's 3 options here.
I probably would agree with you. I don't know if we're thinking of the same 3, but if in my
opinion, I'll reveal mine after you say yours.
They're all on defense, I would say. I'm going to go with Quinn Williams. I really think that he's been just lights out this year. I mean, 7 sacks in 9 games. He obviously had the fumble recovery, and he stiff-armed Tyreek Hill to all Jets fans' pleasure there. But he's just been a monster in the run game and obviously pass rushing. Credit to him for doing what he's done. Credit to the D line overall. But Quinnen is making the leap in a contract year, no less. But he's been unreal and really a true force on that defensive line, and a big part of the reason why we're talking about the Jets in the conversation as the best defense in the NFL. And I think pretty clearly, top 5 or 6. So I would have to say Quinnen at this point.
Okay. So obviously he's my runner-up.
Is he who you thought I was going to go for?
Yes.
Okay.
So it worked out perfectly of how I wanted to go with this. Elijah Vera Tucker. And I know he's hurt. But the reason I'm going to say this is he was the best player on this team before he went down. And the versatility, and I know the offensive line has obviously been okay since he went down. It's not as good as it could be with him playing. And the fact that he was playing 3 positions at a high level is valuable to me. In the NFL, offensive line play is so important to success, both as obviously running and passing. he was the MVP to me, and obviously he's not going to end up being the MVP because he's not going to play the second half of the season. But even though he missed the last 2 games, through 7 games, I guess, to me it was pretty obvious. And Quentin to me obviously is very deserving. I'm not going to say you're wrong. And then so obviously those are my other 2, and my third is actually Sauce.
Yeah. That's what I wasn't even considering ABT because of the injury, but I would have said Sauce or CJ Mosley.
CJ Mosley's a good one too, but honestly, I probably would have done DJ Reed over CJ Mosley if I'm being real with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is Sauce gets so much of the attention, but DJ Reed has been so good on the opposite side.
He has
been so good on the opposite side. I've never seen a guy not panic the way that stay relaxed the way that he does when deep balls are thrown against him. It's crazy. And he's been so good opposite Sauce. And it's definitely the best corner combination the Jets have had since Rivas and Cromartie. And honestly, when you take the total of their 2 talent, it may be better. Rivas was the greatest corner we've ever seen. There's no question in my mind about that. But when you take both of them and their levels, and what they bring to the table, I think it may be better than Rivas and Cromartie combined. Am I crazy for thinking that?
No, not at all.
Cromartie was awesome, definitely.
But he would get exposed from time to time.
Yeah, he would. And he got so many balls thrown on him because nobody would go to Rivas' side. And Cromartie hated the tackle, which drove me nuts. He was a great player, no question. I loved having him. I'm just saying, I think when you balance it out, the 2 guys and what they bring, I think it could be Sauce and Reed over Rivas and Cromartie.
I have 2 thoughts on Reed. Number 1, remember we were upset that we didn't get the big time corner, we didn't get the JC Jackson of the world. Yeah. You think the Chargers don't wish that they got DJ Reed, especially for the money that we're paying him?
Yep.
And then building off of that, DJ Reed was probably the best free agent signing of the offseason by any team.
Yes.
Yes. I couldn't even tell you who was better. I think DJ Reed was the best signing and Sauce was the best player in the draft. It's you can't really debate.
No, that's fair.
And it's transformed this defense. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it is. It's
just, I mean, it's funny to think back of the camp battle between Sauce and Bryce Hall, and and people that were clamoring for Bryce Hall to still start, and what we did. Bryce Hall is a fine player, great depth piece, sure, but man, it's good to have what we have on the back end.
It also seems like DJ Reed's redemption for the Tremaine Johnson contract. We finally got the corner that we were hoping to get when we got Tremaine Johnson.
I haven't thought about Tremaine Johnson in forever.
I actually have, and I'll tell you why, because I talked to my friends who are Giants fans, and they laugh at this joke, but I'm like, Kenny Golladay is the offensive version of Tremaine Johnson.
That's 100% accurate. Yeah. And there's guys that come up, Joe runs his random Jets players Twitter account, which I love, by the way, but there's sometimes that I won't out of sheer principle. I won't like the Derek Mason today. I'm oh, just salt in the wound. No, I will not.
If he ever does Dimitri Patterson, I'll definitely not like that one.
Didn't he go MIA before the season?
Dude, he never played a game for them. They signed him, and he was good at Miami before. And then he disappeared and never came back.
That was so weird. That was Idsick, wasn't it?
What is that? Yeah,
I think it was Idsick.
2014.
Yeah, man. Dimitri Patterson, what a blast.
Dimitri Patterson. The funniest thing about it was they gave him Revis' number. That's the best part about it. We could ever get a picture of him from the preseason that year. That would be phenomenal. Man, what a first half of the season, man. It's some good stuff. And I love doing the show, and it's just makes it a lot easier when you don't have to complain about the team every week, right?
Yes, 100%, man. It's been a fun one. I'm amped up. I'm ready for them to get back and hopefully pound New England up in Foxborough.
Yeah, let's hope that Miami loses to Cleveland, which I don't think that they will, and Buffalo's to Minnesota. I mean,
Cleveland put a hurting on Cincinnati. Who knows? I mean, it's anything could happen.
It is true, but let's hope for those 2 things to happen. And we appreciate everyone's support. Make sure if you're not subscribed to the show, subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/TurnOnTheJetsTV. To our audio feed on Apple or Spotify, just search Turn on the Jets Live and you'll see our logo. If you do subscribe or you're already subscribed, make sure to give us a 5-star review or write us a review. It comes a long way for us, and we really would appreciate that. And then obviously our sister content, we have the Turn on the Jets pod with Will Parkinson, which is always great stuff. I know he has some players actually coming up, and draft season should be returning as well. So you will be getting your NFL draft fix of who the Jets should take from Michael Megan, Joe Bellick, James Kuntz, and Dylan Price. Always fun stuff. And it's fun that we're not going to be picking at the top of the draft again. So, it's going to be less stressful. And as always, make sure if you have not to become a Badlands Patreon member. Best premium content on the internet for the Jets. Joe and Connor do an amazing job, especially now that they're doing these winning pods, which is something that Badlands was not used to during the first 2 years of its existence. So it's definitely a nice change of pace. Really good stuff at the film room. I think anyone who's really trying to understand, football on a more sophisticated level, really appreciate the work that Connor does. And also occasionally bringing in our guy, Dan Eason, who's awesome as well, just going through what they see on the film. It's really educational and fun to see, especially for someone like me, who isn't big with film, but is learning just by some of the stuff that they're telling you to look out for. And I actually use that when I'm watching the game now. It's awesome stuff. And, check out our written content as well. We appreciate the support, everybody, and we will talk to you next week. Enjoy the